All right, so welcome back to another stream and another video. What I've done now is I've created just a little bit of notes for my intro because I just wanted to mention something a little bit quickly before we get started, because today what we're going to do is we're going to try to build out the REST API for this app that we've been building the last couple of days, the last couple of videos. And what I wanted to mention before we start is just that I'm not an expert at this, and building REST APIs is something that is completely new to me. So I've built somewhat of a REST API like 2 times before, I think, using Flask and Python, which is what we're going to use today as well for this REST API. And also, kind of the purpose of this series or this stream, these stream sessions, is for me to basically be able to build this app, which I would have been building anyway. So I think that since I would have been building this app either way, it makes sense to just share it with you guys live, so that you can see kind of the entire process of me building this out, and just me making mistakes and trying to figure out how to solve these different things. So let's take a look again at the notes. So what I try to do hard with my normal videos that I do on YouTube is I really try to show that I like exactly how it is, how good or bad I am at coding. But it's sometimes one of those things where if a video turns out to be like 30 minutes long and 15 of those minutes is being spent just on the same problem over and over trying to solve it, I might have to cut that out, just because a 15-minute video tends to do a lot better than a 30-minute video. So I try to keep them short. So, but I try to keep in some errors that I do, just to kind of show a realistic picture of what it looks like when I code. And what I've been getting the impression of is that some people seem to think that I'm like some god when it comes to programming and coding. And that's not really the case at all. And that's kind of why I feel like this series is a good way to really show exactly how it is and exactly what it looks like. I don't cut anything out, and it's just what I'm doing here is exactly how good or bad I am at coding, which I think is really good. And I think I haven't really seen anyone else do an entire live build of an app from zero to a complete finished app that's published. So that's also one of the ideas with it. And then also this stream kind of builds some interest, hopefully, in the app that I'm building, so that when I do release it, maybe some of you guys will want to download it. So that's kind of the idea with it anyway. And I also consider these streams not just pure tutorials, since I'm also learning these things myself as I'm building it out. I consider them kind of a mix between tutorials and also kind of just hangouts, where I'm coding, maybe you're following along and coding along with me, or maybe you're building something else out, maybe you're just having this on in the background. So it's not as formal as like a tutorial, since I'm actually like exploring some of these things myself in the stream. So with that said, a little bit of a long intro, but now we're going to get into actually building out the REST API. So what I've done is I've created I think I mentioned this last time in the last stream or video, and that is that I've created kind of an outline for what I think we're going to need in all of the classes. And so this is essentially what we're going to have to build out today. We're going to try to get the database set up, and then also get the Flask app up and running. And then we'll go through and try to create all of the classes that we're going to need, and then insert that into the table, and kind of get the very, very basic functionality of the API or database up and working. So we're going to start with just creating the database, and we're going to use Postgres. So there are different types of databases you can use. SQL is like the main one as far as I know. So I'm gonna use Postgres, which is called like PostgreSQL, which is based on the SQL language. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first start by just checking how to actually create the database, because I don't remember that command. Because I think you can just start it straight from the terminal. Oh. Oh yeah, okay, I think this is the one. What we'll call it is productivity app. So this command should create a new database for us and the database will be called productivity app. And I also think that it will open up the database for us so that we'll get actually into it. I'm not quite sure, but I think yeah. Nope. Invalid argument PSQL. Okay, I copied the wrong one. Change the usage. All right, maybe we'll just open up Postgres and then we'll go into it and then we'll create the database inside. We'll just make sure that we actually have it. Okay, so we have it running. Okay, so now we're in the database. Now we just need to create a database. All right, create database SQL. Create database, and then now we can name it, so productivity app. All right, so this should then create our database for us, which I think it did now because, oh wait. productivity app. I think you always have to end it with something like that. Syntax error near create. This is something that I get sometimes, which I'm not sure why, but sometimes when you paste, or when I paste, it tends to not work even though it's like spelled correctly. I'm gonna try it with lowercase. It should work with lowercase as well, I think. Productivity app. Oh shit. Oh, create database product. All right, why did that not work? All right, I think add Nino7, if that's what you say. I think that's, yeah, all right. So we created the database. Now that works. See, everything is gonna be a little bit of a struggle right now because I'm so not used to this. So therefore the kind of spiel at the beginning. All right, so now we've got our database created. That was essentially all that we wanted to do. Now we can get into the more of the Flask stuff. All right, so what I did was essentially I just Googled REST API with Python and Flask, and we're gonna follow this a little bit quickly through and just get it set up. All right, we're gonna open up a new terminal window. And then we're gonna go into our project. What was this one called again? It was called, what do we call it? To-do app, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we called it to-do app. To-do app, ls. Yeah, all right. So now we create a new directory called backend, which is gonna be where we keep all of the backend stuff. And then we're gonna do git add. Backend. Okay, now we have that. Now we go into backend, and then we open this up in Visual Studio Code. Okay, there we go. We're gonna have this here for now. What I think we need to do is we need to create a virtual environment as well. So we'll create a virtual environment, call that env, enter, and then that should set that up. All right, so now we have the virtual environment. Now let's go into it, source env, and then what is it, bin, activate, and then now we're in our virtual environment. And that is just so that we can install some of the things a little bit more specifically to this project. Okay. Now we'll follow this. Make their project, make their resources. Okay, I'm not sure that we're gonna need the hello.py. add the following to requirements.text. Okay, so this is what they outlined that we're going to need. We're going to need all of these different files essentially, which is going to be app.py, migrate.py, model.py, and requirements.text, and then run.py. I think that this part of it is just for like, I think it's going to be a basic website or something like that that they've got. So I'm not sure that we're going to need that. All right, so we're going to just go ahead and add all of those files. Yep, we're just going to add the files. All right, there we go. Let's add a file, app.py, add another one. What is this one? Migrate.py. I think this is the one that migrates. So you basically create all of the stuff that's going to get put into the database within the Python or the Flask app. And then what you do is I think you run migrate.py, you do it with in some special way, and basically that'll then insert all of the tables and all of the stuff into the database for us, so we don't have to do that manually. And yeah, I think that's what migrate.py will do. And then we have model.py, but we're going to call that models.py. And then we're going to have requirements.txt. All right. Da, 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 da. Okay, and then we'll just add all of this stuff into the requirements.txt like they said. Save that. And okay, they're just explaining all the packages, which we don't really care about. Okay, and then pip install requirements. Okay, that'll then go ahead and install everything for us. Okay, then we should add config.py as well. And then we'll add whatever he said we should add into that one. I'm not sure how interesting this will be. This is just going to essentially be me setting everything up, which isn't super interesting, I don't think. But this is also, like I said, I wanted to build everything out live, so we're essentially building everything out live. Config.py, import, da da da. Okay, copy this. And add this to config.py. We're gonna rename this productivity app. Okay, so we're essentially, before it said database or something like that, we rename it to the database name that we gave our SQL database. Not sure if we need to actually replace anything here, but we'll see what happens when we test run it. Okay. Create the app.py entry points. hello.py API from resources.hello. Okay, we're just gonna see what they add to hello, and then depending on what they add, hello.py class hello resource def get self return message hello world. Okay. In hello class, we define the function get. This means that any get request on the hello endpoint will be hitting this function. Okay, I think that's actually a good thing to have, because from what I understand it's going to be essentially that we add endpoints here, and that will then call all of these or this file. So essentially here we can add all of the get, put, post, delete, all those requests. There are different types of requests that you can have when you make an API request. So essentially it's kind of good to have them all structured in a nice way. So we're gonna actually create that folder. I'm gonna call that resources. And then within these folders is where we're going to have all of the separate requests. So essentially for our app, for the purposes of our app, let's say that we want to add a new task. Okay, we can do a couple things. We can add a new task or a new project, let's say. So essentially then we would have one of these classes here and one of these files for adding a new task, and then a separate file for adding a new project. So in that way we're then separating them so that it doesn't become a huge long file of all the different endpoints that we have and all the different get and put requests. I think it'll make more sense once if you don't understand this right now, I think it'll make more sense once we actually get it a little bit up and running and we can test it. So we have resources right now. What we're going to do inside resources, we're going to add task.py, and this essentially, I think we're going to add all of the different endpoints based on, or the files that we're going to add here are going to be based on all of the classes that we decided we're going to have. So we're going to have project, support file, and user, because what you can do from the app is you can either get a task, you can get a project, you can get a support file, you can get a user, and as you see what they said here, here in the hello class we define the function get. This means that any get requests on the hello endpoint will be hitting this function. So anytime we want to get something that is related to the hello class, we will essentially be calling this file or this class. So therefore, for all of these things, we can do a get request for all of these different things. We can get the task, get the projects, get the support file, get the user. So therefore, it makes sense to have separate files for all of those and create different classes for each of them. All right, new file, project.py, user.py, and support file as well. All right, so now we have all of that. What we're going to start with, I think we're going to start with the user because it's a little bit simpler. Okay, import this into our user class. And what we're going to do before we continue, we're going to just change this stuff out for user or something. User. And as you can see up here, it says from resources.hello import hello. what we can do, and then is we can call from resources.user. Wait. Okay. So lowercase, because we named it lowercase, and then import user. All right. So now we can then create our class for the user, class user resource. Okay, and then we can define all of the different requests. Get, we can also have a post. Post. And yeah, there are several different types that we could use, but we're just going to start with this. We're going to make it as simple as possible to just get it up. So if you need a post method, you will do something like post. Okay. Finally, add the following to run.py. Copy this, add it to oh yeah, we didn't create the run.py. All right, let's create that file as well. Run.py. And now that is within our resources, which we don't want. Okay, run.py. Paste all of this. Let's see. Okay, I think that is all that we need. From your terminal, make sure you are on the root folder when you run this command. Okay. So we'll do that. We'll do run python run.py. File run.py line 17. App create config. Missing init.py package or module path not found in sys.found or module name taking procedure system found. App.config. All right, what did we miss? Let's take a look at the app.py again. And the config file. Paste here. Let's put that. Import error, no module named config. import config, no module name config. Ah, okay. Thank you guys for keeping me or helping me out. So I basically renamed or named it wrong, which is typical, isn't it? Typical of me at least. All right, so that should now work. Come on, get it together. Okay, no module name resources.user. Resources, okay. Again, named it wrong. Okay. Resources. Okay. Let's just try this. I'm not sure that will change anything, but import user. Oh, no module name user. Yes, there is. Class hello resource get self. Yes, everything resource. Okay, I see. app.py resources. Let's see, app.py resources import. Okay, resources import user. Okay, from resources.user, no module named resources.user. All right, not sure why this is not working, but let's instead, let's copy all of this. Paste it here. User. Let's just leave that as that. Okay, so now we've at least done that. see. Run.py, nope. Okay. Copy all of that. Add it to the user. And just change the name here. Okay, so it still doesn't work. At least now I've copied everything, so now it should be... It shouldn't be at least spelling errors, unless there's spelling errors in the what he's put out here, which, I mean, there might be. But the question is, why does this not work? Resources.user. Okay, let's just copy that and let's rename this file here. No module named resources.user. Okay. No module named resources. App.py. How come? Okay, maybe if we go further down, because sometimes I followed one of these ones before, and what I noticed was that I didn't get it to work either the first time, and then I scrolled down into the tutorial, and like way down I saw that, okay, there was an import that they had done that I hadn't done because they didn't show that up top, so therefore it didn't work, but at the bottom they had it, and they didn't really say that that was something that we needed to add. So sometimes it could be that they've just missed some import, but this seems like another problem because it's like it doesn't see that we have this file, this folder here, which I'm not sure why, because it should see that. Shouldn't it? Resources, import user. Okay, what we're gonna do, import files from folder Python. Folder. All right, this is one of those tiny little issues that's like gonna take up the whole, take up a lot of time really. Okay, app.py, I really like, this is where we're running into problems. We're not able to import it. We're not able to see this folder resources, which we should be able to see. Yeah. No module named resources. Let's Google it. All right, let's see, run.py. All right, base dir. The thing is, like, if we just do this, if we pull this thing out here, I think it'll work. Yeah, so now it gives another error, but it doesn't give, so now it, apparently I would assume that it finds this file. So the only issue really that we have is that it doesn't find it within the folder. Move. Okay, let's try this. Resources. Okay, now it doesn't find it again. What we're gonna do, we're gonna move that out then of that folder just for now, because that at least that way we can keep going and work on the other errors that come up. All right, next error. App equals create app, import error, no module named model. Okay, I know that one. Should be simple. Where are we at? Model here, so we just do model. Models still even. All right. Cannot import. Okay, but that is because we don't have anything there. Okay, we can just comment that out because that is going to be for when we actually have the database. Okay, so now we get the server up and running. Now we need to figure out how to actually have this file in that folder, because really we want to have it in that folder, because otherwise it's going to get super messy having just everything out here. Essentially what you want to do when you're building anything is just like almost have more folders than you think you need. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. Okay, figure out this problem now. Set edit Python path. Argument default set always done. At the moment on machine Python is empty. Before we set the Python path correctly, this will fail with traceback. Set the export Python path pvd. Alright, not sure. I'm not actually sure what I'm doing right now. I haven't done this before, so resources.user, but I'm thinking that what I'm doing is I'm setting like the base directory that it's going to look through. Not sure that the code is going to be needed, but we're going to try to just run it now. Okay, no module named resources.py. What we're gonna do, export path. All right. Still can't find that file, which is a bit strange. Running useful function, open turn up, export, Python path, export. Okay, why does this not work? Users, all right, why is this not working? All right, I'm gonna listen to you, Maruchandayo, or whatever your name is in the chat. Create a new empty file called init.py. All right, we're gonna do that. I will try anything at this point. Init.py. Oh, inside resources. Yeah, we got it. All right, what are we doing now? Oh, okay, it worked. Thank you for that. That was super helpful. And fuck, thank you. Thank you for that. There we go. We have that running. Okay, let's just forget that ever happened. And now we're gonna pretend like I'm an awesome coder again. And we're gonna move on to the next thing. Okay, so we got that working. That's out of the way. Done, dusted. Let's go. If we go to our local host now, we could do this. Oh. And essentially what we're doing is we're accessing our endpoint. Is it capital letters even? Yep, it's capital letters. Not found. URL on the server. Oh, okay. Wait. Okay. All right, maybe we need the local host thing. That part of it. Let's copy this and add that here. I don't think we need that, but okay, nope. Uses hello. Okay, let's just go to the tutorial, see what they say. Ah, API, okay, that's why. All right, so there we go. We get the message here, hello world. Finally, we get some actual output from this thing. Now what we can do is we can change that. We can say hello Cal, something like that. And if we go back here now and enter it again, it says hello Cal instead. That's working now, great. Oh my God, all right. Next thing is going to be, I'm assuming, creating the models and actually adding it to the database, which is what we got here. So, okay, DB, we're going to import all of this into our models.py. All right, save it. And then we'll take a look at what they've got here. Init. Okay, database. What I'm looking for right now is just to see where they create all the classes, because I have already done this before. So what I'm looking for is just to see whether they do anything different. But it doesn't seem like they go through this that much more. Common schema, many equals true. Okay, so what I've done is I've prepared, or for the other app that I've done, which is this one, I've already created different things for a user. Okay, so we import that. database. Okay, maybe we actually need to follow this just to see that we're actually doing it the right way. Okay, category self.name serialize. Okay, so I think we're gonna copy this one, or maybe let's copy this one because that has a little bit more stuff in it. Okay, and then we'll go into, where were we? This one. All right, and what we'll do here is we'll paste this thing in. So this is a class called comment, and what we wanted, okay, yeah, so that looks pretty much exactly like this one, actually. So we can just copy this. And this is for another app that I created called, which was the startup app that I'm still working on, but it's like I haven't worked on it for a while, so I'll give you an update once I get back into that. All right, so here we go. User database model, users is what so we define the table name. So that is what, if we go into our Postgres database, then we're gonna have different names for all the different tables, and essentially this is gonna be named users, and that's gonna contain all of the users for our app. And then we have table args, ID, username. Not sure what that was actually. Let's take a look. App.py. All right, anyway. And then unique constraint, ID, username, name to unique. Then we have the ID of the user, which is a string, and that's a primary key. All of these things is not super important right now. They're a little bit advanced, and I don't know them enough to actually be able to explain them in a way that would make sense, I don't think. But I think that a primary key is like, essentially, when you want to get something from the database, you need to provide something so that you can then tell the database, like, what are you trying to get? So let's say that when you want to get something from the database, you type in select, and then you can type in some sort of like condition where you want to select something. So let's say that you want to select a user where the username is equal to cal or something like that. Then you can provide that here. Not sure. Let's just look that up quickly. Select from database SQL. Okay, so what we could do, for instance, we could do select star from, let's say tasks, where user ID, let's say, is equal to, or what do we say? Yeah, so where user ID is equal to 12 or something like that. I think this is the right syntax. Anyone in the chat that knows this better than me can feel free to just jump in if I'm doing something wrong. But essentially, the details of exactly how you write this is not super important. Like you see, I just Google it and I can find out how to actually do it. But what is important is, like, when we want to get something from the database, we essentially, this select star selects everything. So this then will select every task from our table called tasks, where the user ID is equal to 12. So, or where you could also do where username is equal to cal, which is what I used as the example just before. So essentially what this will then do is it'll get all of cal's tasks, and it'll display, so it'll basically get all of my tasks. And this is essentially how you get stuff from the database. And let's say that, for instance, the reason that we want to use an ID for our user is because just using the name of the user is not, unless you're having like a username, which in a normal app would be actually unique. What you want to do is you want to, let me try to rephrase this so that I make sure that I actually explain it right. For instance, if we want to select every task from the users where the username is equal to Cal, there might be several different people called Cal in our database. So that means that we might actually get not just my tasks, we might get Cal X and Cal Y and Cal Z, you know, like several other users with the same name or with the same first name. We might get all their tasks as well, which is not what we want to do. We want to get the tasks for that specific user, which means that we need something called a primary key, which needs to be unique in this case if we want to be able to actually get just the tasks referred to, or the tasks that this specific user has. So that's why you sometimes see like the different long ass IDs for different users and things like that. If, for instance, if you go to YouTube and then you go to a video or something, then you have something in the URL that would look something like this. There will be some part of the URL that will look something like this, and I'm guessing that's like the video ID or something. And that needs to be unique because we can't have two videos with the same ID, because then if we request that video, we might get either of the videos because essentially two of them have the same name. So therefore, some of the keys that we have, or some of the fields, or fields in our database will need to be unique so that we can actually get the specific ones that we want. That was a long explanation, but I think it kind of, I hope you kind of understood what I meant. All right, so therefore we need an ID that has to be a primary key, and it has to be unique. And that means that we can then use this ID to get data that is related to one specific user. And the username is also a primary key, because what I want in the app is for the username to actually be unique, because I don't want you to be able to have three people with the exact same username. In some apps that doesn't really matter, so you can have this not be a primary key. But then the first name, last name, that's just going to be a string. Password is just going to be a string. Email address is just going to be a string as well. Let's take a look at our class here. Last name, password, email, API key. All right. Something that I'm not very familiar with either, but is something that I think we should have as well, is called API key. And I'm not sure how you would actually type this in, but that is what we essentially are going to use so that we can access all of the different, I guess the user ID could be an API key in a sense, but I think it makes sense to have two. And what the API key does is essentially it authorizes the user for us. So for instance, if you have an app and you go into it and you don't have to log in anymore, that is because you've got an API key stored probably on your device, I would guess. Again, I'm very new to this, so I'm not sure exactly where it gets stored, but I think it's stored locally on your device. And as soon as you open up the app, this API key gets sent to the database or to the API, and then it basically authorizes you for, it does the authorization for you, so you don't have to again, type in your email address and password, or username, password, whatever it is. And what this then will do is they'll go to the database. I think the way to do it in the right way is to kind of hash it, which is a little bit, I don't think I should explain that, because like essentially what it does is it takes, let's say that we have a long number. Let's open up Sublime Text and open up a new note. All right, so let's say that we have a long ID here. What a hashing function will do is it'll essentially go through this entire thing, and then for each, I'm not sure exactly, because there are different types of hashing functions, so I think you can do more advanced, less advanced, but the base principle is essentially it'll take each letter or something like that, and it'll multiply it, or it'll do something to it which will make it into make it represented by another number. So let's say that we put in a W into a hashing function, we will then get out a number or another letter, something, which if we then put that number into the the hashing function, we will get out the right letter. So that means that what we will store in the database will be a hashed API key. So that's then going to be a lot of like different, it's going to be something different than the actual API key, but when we put in the API key, we will get back, or, okay, trying to explain this in the right way. So what we'll store in the database will be this thing, and when we give the API key, we will essentially perform the hashing function, and then we'll check whether our results match the already saved hashed API key. And if it does, then we will authorize the user, and then it will get put into, or then we'll get all the data that we want for that user. Now, I'm not sure exactly what type of hashing function we're going to use, and I'm not sure that I can actually share the hashing function. I know, like you probably see now, I know a little bit about how it works, but I'm not an expert, like I've said, and so therefore I don't know quite all the details of it. But I think that's something that I can probably share the build out of that hashing function, and then I can probably change it to a different type of hashing function afterwards, so that you get to see me building that out, and then I will just change it so that all the user data is not just exposed or easily hackable. But that could also be something that's automatically taken care of by the hashing function, so I'm not sure. All right. Okay, so there we go. We have this now, which is ID, API key, all right. Okay, so there we go. We have that one up. I think I'm not sure how long we've been actually streaming for right now. But, because I'm not sure, I don't want to keep it too long, and I feel like this one may not be the most entertaining one to watch. I think the next stream is probably going to be a little bit more entertaining, because that's when we're gonna, now I've just like, this entire stream is pretty much gone towards figuring out how to set everything of this stuff up so that we have the server up and running and have the API somewhat working. But next time, I think next time is when we're actually going to get into like all of this stuff, creating the new database tables for the tasks and creating the tables for the projects and all the other classes that we've got here. All right. Because I don't want to start anything as well at this time and then realize that it's going to take me an hour to finish. So we'll see. I'm just going to try to, okay, we'll look at the tutorial again and see kind of where we were at. All right, here we have comment class definer, okay. We've also defined columns, ID. Okay, so Kleckot56 said that a primary key is unique by default. I've heard, I would say that I knew this, I'm not sure, but I knew this, but it's like, I think the reason that I set this to be unique, I think there was a specific reason when I built this out. It didn't, the primary key didn't become unique or something. I remember like having to actually look up how to make that unique, so I'm not sure whether that is something that we actually need to add. But I know I did add it for some reason. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I want to remove it yet. Okay, what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna add this to GitHub again, so that we keep our progress. Okay, git. Okay, how do we add stuff to a git ignore file? Add folder to git ignore. Okay, let's say we want to add a file call. Then we just need to write readme.txt in a git ignore file. Okay. Can we just create a git ignore file, or let's try to create the, I'm going to continue my repository. Okay, so that is something that we can do. We can do touch dot git ignore. Code dot git ignore. And what do we do then? save those files as all right. I think what we need to do then is we need to do backend. Backend and then slash and then env, right? Save it and then do git status git add dot. Okay, let's see if it's been added. Models. Probably should add this as well. Backend. Save it and then do git status git add. Okay, undo git add. All right, so now that's gone as well. Okay, now we can add it. Backend integration started. Push. All right, so now we push that to GitHub as well. And now you got to see how to do the git ignore file, and you got to learn that with me if you didn't know it already. As you see, like most things are pretty simple once you just Google them. But the difficult thing I think with programming is probably more, it's not necessarily doing the things that you need to do. It's more about like knowing what to Google, so knowing what you need, what you need to be doing. For instance, I knew that I could just add something to a git ignore file, and that is kind of the difficult thing about programming. All right, I think that's going to be it for today, and next time we're going to go into actually making this, making some endpoints here, like tasks, and basically that should then return a list of tasks for a different user. We're going to create an API key, and then once we've done a few of the endpoints, we're also going to finish the database or the tables for the SQL database so that we have all that set up, and then we're going to try to figure out a way to get all of the stuff from these endpoints. We're going to try out some get requests, some push request, or some get requests, some put requests, some post requests, and delete requests. And then probably not next time, but hopefully the time after that, we're going to get actually the app to add stuff to the database and then delete stuff from the database and then get stuff from the database as well. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I hope you enjoyed this stream as well, and I hope you enjoyed the video in case you're watching it on YouTube. And yeah, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.